As well. Appreciate you. You guys realize or not, we've been doing this like for over a year now. So we cover some intense topics here, and this one here is one I couldn't shy away from, that we kind of really have to look at, because it happens unfortunately in the world, but unfortunately it does happen here in church settings as well. So we got to be able to look at it, how we can collectively address this issue. I'm waiting a few minutes here. I thought Pastor would be here, but Elder, if you don't mind giving us the blessing over this, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, she's going to get you a mic, so hold tight for 1 second.
He's going to meet me halfway. God bless you, brother. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father, once again, we are coming to you. We know that your word tells us that if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask the Father of lights, and you will give it to us freely. And so, Father, we just pray that as we take this time to study an aspect of the mind and emotional behavior, that we will be able to not just learn information or not just hear information, but that we will learn it, and that it will become a part of who we are, so we can reflect the character of Christ, and that the mind of Christ will be the mind that we share. And so please guide us, allow your spirit to work through us and in us. Be with Brother Hudley as he gives us this word of thoughtfulness, and encourage him to speak boldly. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Elder. All right, so as I always start here, let me give my medical disclaimer here. All content in this presentation is for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice and should not be relied on as health or personal advice. Always seek the advice seek the guidance rather of your doctor or other qualified health professionals with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard the advice of a medical professional or delay in seeking it because of something that was discussed in this presentation. If you think you may have a medical emergency, you call your doctor, go to the nearest hospital emergency department, or call the emergency services immediately. If you choose to rely on any information provided by you, do so solely at your own risk. All right, so those folks who kind of know me, I like doing surveys. And surveys for you is to kind of gauge where your thought processes are. And you don't have to answer all the questions like out loud. Just answer the questions in your mind, so it kind of can help you to understand, as I discuss. It'll really get you to look at some things here. So this is called a passive-aggressive scale, okay? So you just answer the questions in your own mind. Don't say, hey, ooh, that's awesome. No, answer them strictly for you, okay? Question 1, when I talk about someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, I pretend to praise their strengths, but also drop hints about their weaknesses. Question 2, I tattle on mistakes made by someone I don't like or find uncomfortable to a higher authority to ruin their reputation. Question 3, I intentionally reveal embarrassing events or the dark past of someone I dislike or find uncomfortable in public. Question 4, I ask someone I don't like or find uncomfortable questions they can't answer in front of others to make them uncomfortable. Question 5, I mock someone I don't like or find uncomfortable by being sarcastic and pretending it's just a joke. Now, if you got any questions in between, if you need for me to get some clarity on the questions, stop me. So.
Can you explain number 3?
Sure. It says, I intentionally reveal embarrassing events or dark past of someone I dislike or find uncomfortable in public. Like say someone you really don't like and you know something about them that they might have shared with you in secret, but then you go in a public setting. Well, you know, when so-and-so was 12 years old, you know, they used to wet the bed. Wouldn't that be embarrassing? I mean, just as an example. So, yeah, and you would do that because, hey, you know, the person's an adult, but you don't, and then plus the confidence of the person, they told you that confidence that you would, because you didn't really like them, but so it's a way for me to get back at them. We're going to come to that a little bit later, though. Question 6. When I have something I want to say about someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, I talk about it with others in plain sight of them, like literally in front of them. Question 7. I pretend I am the victim to give someone I dislike or find uncomfortable a hard time. All right, continuing here. Question 8. I purposely avoid eye contact with someone I don't like or find uncomfortable. Question 9. When I meet someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, I try to get away from them intentionally. All right, question 10. I cut ties with someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, even though I know they want to get in touch with me and find out how I am doing. Question 11. When someone I dislike or find uncomfortable tries to connect with me by phone, I deliberately choose to ignore them. Question 12. I give someone I dislike or find uncomfortable the silent treatment. The silent treatment. Like, really? Like you just don't say no. You know how some people give you that look. Yeah, I know what I mean by the look. Like, why are you talking to me? Why, whatever? That look, like really, you talking to me? You know, it's called the look. Question 13. When someone on social media I dislike or find uncomfortable asks me a question, I pretend I never saw the question in the first place. Question 14. I have a cold and dismissive attitude towards someone I dislike or find uncomfortable. Question 15. I deliberately delay someone I dislike or find uncomfortable to give them a hard time. In other words, you drag them, okay? 16, I pretend to help someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, but sabotage their work behind their back. 17, when I work with someone I dislike or find uncomfortable, I intentionally don't do my share of the work and end up penalizing them. In other words, make them look bad. Okay, number 17, when I work with someone that I dislike or find uncomfortable, I intentionally don't do my share of the work and end up penalizing them. You want to piggyback on that?
Well, no, I was thinking, because that happens a lot with group projects. So when you have someone that you're feeling like, okay, they're not respecting, like there's a lot of times where in a group project things don't come out fairly or something. It's like, well, if I don't do my part, then the grade reflects all of us. And so instead of just telling the person, hey, you need to do your part, or I'm not going to help you, you know, it's like instead of having a direct confrontation, it's just, well, I'm just not going to do my part, and then the whole group is going to get a bad grade. And anytime there's cooperation, this can happen where it's like, well, because this reflects on all of us, and I don't like how you're behaving, now we're all going to get the negative out of that.
All right. Did I give clarity or? Okay, good. All right, question 18. I come up with excuses and say things like, I forgot, to someone I dislike or find uncomfortable. Question 19. I deliberately procrastinate when someone I dislike or find uncomfortable asks me to do something. Question 20. when someone I dislike or find uncomfortable asks me for a favor, I don't give it all and do a sloppy job. 21, when someone I dislike or find uncomfortable asks me to do something, I don't do it properly and come up with excuses like, I didn't know it was important. Okay. Now, that's just something I want you to kind of think about as we go through the rest of the seminar here. Okay. Now, yes, sir.
So on a couple of them, I have a question.
Sure.
So there are a few of them, just to summarize, it's avoiding someone you don't like, whether or not you need them, you don't want to have eye contact with them, you see them coming, you leave intentionally. And there was another one that you had up there. So it was like 3 of them that really talked about you just avoiding someone that you dislike or find uncomfortable. My question is there a difference in being passive aggressive and or just not wanting to be around someone that you just don't like and you find uncomfortable? And if there is not a difference, are we saying that this behavior is not okay?
Okay.
And can I ask too, to add to that, is avoiding confrontation passive aggressive?
Okay. Well, all right. I'm gonna answer both of them because it's a good question, because I'm hoping that the end of that would answer that, but I'm gonna go ahead and kind of, no, that's fine. But that's a good point. It's a good point, because here's what happens. I'm gonna give you an example. How many of you ever been in a situation, you've been in a grocery store, and you see a person, you see a person in the grocery store, and you know they talk you to death, and you know as soon as you see them, oh man, they're gonna stop you.
Stop talking about me, brother.
See, you said it. I didn't say it. You said it. Okay. So, but you purposely, you see them in that aisle, and you go 2 aisles over just to make sure they don't see you. Okay. And then as soon as they, oh Daniel, how you doing? Let me tell you, when my feet hurt me, and you be like, oh man. That's something totally different than a person that you deal with and you see their behavior still keep jugging at you and you don't know how to address their behavior, and you say, it's best for me to avoid them because I don't know how to address their behavior. Versus that, you see what I'm saying, versus where...
So you're not saying that I don't really just like them as a person, right?
Right.
It's just like, it's not really like as a person, but I can't get along with someone. Versus, it's just some things about this person that just annoys me, and because I'm too uncomfortable with my emotions and being able to articulate who I am, to tell them what annoys me and set the right boundaries. That's it. Okay, I got you.
Now, let's get to that question. Now, A, you got to ask yourself, why are you avoiding the confrontation? Sometimes confrontations need to be had. Okay? Because sometimes it gets to an understanding. I've always learned there's no standing like an understanding. So if I understand that when you don't get along, we don't get along. But I understand we can find a fair medium and get along and get things going. Get it going and address it. And then it makes everybody feel better. Yes, sir.
One view that I'm seeing is I'm looking at time again. I may not, if it's a very conversive person, and then I may not have the time. And I think there's appropriateness in avoiding that if the time isn't appropriate for that engagement and duration of it. On the other hand, I want to view self. First of all, what is my attitude, the primary attitude? Is it something negative about me? And perhaps the third one, is it a toxic environment? And I want to consider those factors as well. If it's a toxic environment, then there is grounds for avoidance. Because if I know of the situation, I know the person's response or reaction or actions, then I can do some quick self-examination whether I want to do that. So there are some
Right,
options.
and to piggyback even further, if you know the person is toxic and they're not trying to get no better, and you know it's always going to trigger something for you, it's best for you to step away until you can know how to be able to address the person's actions and behavior. See, that's the thing that gets most people so whatever. Oh, and I use the example all the time. Oh, you make me sick. Oh, you go to my last nerve. But we never address nobody's behavior. We always can tell how they the whatever. We never say to them, okay, when you do this, you make me feel a certain way. If you don't do this, I will feel better, or I will have to feel this way. See, we got to start addressing people's behavior. We keep saying this all the time, but never address the behavior. Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, all right. I know we're going to be here for a while. That's good. I like this. Okay.
But what if you are bold enough to address the way that person makes you feel? You're not telling them, oh, this is you, you act like this, but you're literally saying, when you do this, I feel this way. And they don't accept it. They don't even see it. How do you deal when you actually...
Well, it goes back, do you want to deal with that person? Okay, because if you came honest with me, if you say, hey, you know what, Brother Henri, you know what, sometimes whether you look at me, make me feel a certain way. I'm like, okay, well, what about me that whatever? Then we sit down and say, you know what, I realize that it's maybe me maybe feeling a certain way, and I should be whatever because I might be whatever, and I need to look at myself like I need to reflect on me a little bit more. But if it's point blank, you see the person's behavior and they say, hey, I'm gonna change, and they don't change, what does that tell you? That tells you what? That person's not trying to do anything. Or that person's self-centered and worrying about themselves and looking at what you can do for them. Yeah, trust me, that's a whole nother subject. But that's a good question, good question. All right, so what does the Bible have to say about passive aggressiveness? Leviticus 19:7. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. Luke 17:13. Take heed to yourselves, if thy brother trespass against thee, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. John 7:4. For there is no man that doeth anything in secret, and he himself seeketh to be known openly. If thou do these things, show thyself to the world. Romans 14:12. So then, every one of us shall give an account of himself to God. Ephesians 4:31-32. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. So I just want you to kind of realize the Bible does have to say about these things as well. Okay? Now, what is really passive aggressiveness? I act in a passive aggressive way when I hide my hostility by seeming to be nice to someone I dislike and unable to be honest with the person. Say I agree with something, but don't follow through because I really don't agree with it. In other words, yeah, I'm gonna do that, but never do it, okay? Because I really don't want to do it. I really don't like it, but I just keep telling them, yeah, I'm gonna do that, yeah. Act opposite to what others are expecting. Quietly manipulate to get my own way after voicing a completely different opinion just to keep the peace. Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, we fine. Knowing that you're not really going to do that because you know if you say you're not going to do it, the person's going to start right there on you and then you're not ready for that. And so you just say, you know what? Yeah, I'll do that just to keep the peace. Seeking revenge by agreeing and looking good, but never following through on my promises. Telling people what they want to hear, even if I don't believe in what I'm saying. Now I know I'm doing. I always learn the worst lie you ever can tell is to yourself. Exactly. Try to please people by agreeing to their plan of action, yet actually doing the opposite. There you go. Act one way in which is true to my inner feelings, yet say another. Am out of touch with my inner feelings. The only way to know how I feel about something is to observe my behavior. Don't trust my words. Hate something or someone, but am afraid of letting my true feelings show. Being pressured to act or believe in a certain way when I really don't want to. Avoid conflict at all costs by giving in to others, then procrastinate and never do what I agreed to do. That's what Pastor was saying about sometimes when people avoid confrontations. They really don't want to do it. They don't know how to address it. They just say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do that. And then they're waiting on you to say, because you said you was going to do it. Then the first thing they say, well, Dan, you said you was going to do that. Oh, I did say that. Didn't I? Oh, man, I said that 2 weeks ago. Oh, man, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. How many of us say, I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. I'm preaching to the choir now. Okay. All right. I'm angry, but afraid to show my anger. So I quietly take my revenge by doing the opposite. Like, yeah, I really don't want whatever the case may be, but yeah, I'm gonna set you up so it makes you look bad in front of everybody. You know, that's kind of scary if you really think about it. If you really don't like that person that much that you're gonna set up a whole scheme to try to really make a person look bad.
But it's unfortunate though that sometimes people do know and they can see that the person is scheming. The person doesn't know that everybody knows that they're
That's the thing, the person who doesn't know. And then here you are with your mouth open. Like, I didn't know you can actually go that low. Okay, so what are the typical reactions to my passive aggressiveness? When people recognize my passive aggressiveness, they are surprised. Like we just say, Lauren, I would never thought you would be that in a million years. You know now, right? Okay. All right. So they're surprised. They get disappointed. Pastor, you said you was going to be there to help me. You let me down. They get angry. You ain't got to worry about me messing with Clarence no more, because, man, Clarence ain't about nothing. You know, he just all he is talk. That's all it is. There's nothing to it, talk. All right, confused by my behavior. Say one thing, do different things in your behavior. You totally confusing me here. All right? Confront me on my actions. That's where everybody gets scared at. Now, this is, and then this is where sometimes people ratchet it up a little bit more. Oh, this ain't the first time you done this. Oh, I see one hand in the wind now, huh? This ain't the first time you done this. Or this is the millionth time you've done this. And you keep telling me, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna get better, I'm gonna do better. I'm gonna do better. I swear I'm gonna do better. Realize that I lied to them. In other words, you got caught in a lie. When I used to work in corrections, this is a funny thing. I worked in corrections in 3 years. And one of the things they used to say in corrections, and it was weird, but it was truthful. They would say, you know what? They used to say all the time, I'm not a criminal until I get caught. Yeah, I'm not a criminal until I get caught. I know, I was like, what? But you in here, how many years you got? But it was weird. I'm telling you, I'm not a criminal until you get caught.
Go one step further. I'm not a criminal until I get convicted.
Yeah, seriously. They had, when I used to work, I used to work in the mental health part of corrections. And I would have folks who have major mental illness who would do crimes. South Carolina is one of most of other states that they don't care whatever the case may be. If it's something you do, you're gonna go to prison. okay? And they just treat you while you in prison, okay? So, yeah, they was like, hey, you know, this is what's happening. It happens. Like, I'm not a criminal. Get frustrated by the inconsistencies in my behavior. Just the pattern up and down, up and down. Begin to battle with me, resulting in a conflict greater than the one I originally tried to avoid. So in other words, I start pointing out everything that's wrong with you now. How many times people would ever, all right, this is the one thing that's wrong, but now here's the whole litany of things start coming down. You know what? You this and you that, and you trifling, all of it comes out now. Yes, exactly. Oh yeah, I know I didn't like you. So I'm telling y'all, I'm laughing because these things, you guys, I'm saying what you say in your head that you won't say aloud. Okay? And that's what's happening. We battle with that. Okay? Get upset and fly into a rage, and this damages the relationship. See, I knew I shouldn't. Trust me. Now I'm gonna take it one step further, brother. Listen, I've heard people say, "Yeah, I knew I shouldn't have overcame me. I should have with your friend." Ooh, trust me, I was like, okay, that's not good. All right. No longer trust me. Okay, I'm a firm believer that your words and action must match. If you say something, match it with your behavior. If your behavior don't match what you're saying, I will not trust you. I will not trust you until you show otherwise.
That doesn't necessarily mean the judgment of that is appropriate, depending on the source, because the way one person sees it may be biased. And you may be judged on that as you just
well,
mentioned.
I'm talking about in a realistic kind of aspect. If you say to me, Clarence, all right, hey, I need for you to help me with X, Y, Z, and I'm going to meet you here at 2 o'clock, okay? And you say, all right, I'm here at 1:55. 2 o'clock comes, 2:15, 2:30, 3:30, 4 o'clock, and you don't show up. And then
Why you wait that long?
Right, and then you say, hey, I try to reach out to you, whatever. Then you don't pick up the phone. And then I'm like, okay, you know what? Unless something, so I'm thinking like, maybe something really might have happened to you. So I'm like, I'm concerned now because I'm thinking something might have really happened. But then I see you the next day walking down the street, ain't nobody's business. Then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna feel a certain way. I just am, and then we just had to have that discussion. But I know that's not you, but I'm just saying, for example.
What would fix it would be having a discussion.
Yes, definitely, for real. Yeah, you got to tell me something on that one. You just have to tell me something. Like, you got robbed or something. You had to tell me something, okay? Resent me for being dishonest. Act in a similar way with me, and our communication winds up at a standstill where neither of us wins. Like, we just know what? This is not working. Feel challenged by me, and in their competitive reaction becomes more adamant in seeking to achieve what I had originally verbally agreed to with them. In other words, I'm gonna challenge you because you said this and you didn't come through. You know what? How many of y'all sometimes when you deal with people, you store stuff in the back of your head? You see like, I see this person done this. Okay, I'm not gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna sit there and okay, I'm gonna watch that. Because I know, that's why I'm bringing it up, because we do that. We say, okay, I'm not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna watch that, see where it goes. To see where it goes. And sometimes that might have been a one-time thing, but then I start seeing the patterns. Because believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we as human beings, we have patterns in our behaviors. Most people who really know us sometimes know us better in our patterns than we know our own. So keep that in mind. All right, now here's the thing. Now, that's why I underlined this. I said, what irrational thinking keeps my passive aggressiveness when I disagree with others. What's the irrational? When I underline irrational, that means that what doesn't make sense. And trust me, as people, we can have some excuses. These are things that don't make sense, okay? Look at this. I must avoid an argument, fight, or conflict at all costs.
Irrational.
Did we just say that sometimes we need to have conflicts to iron some things out, especially in relationships or couples, and if you in a relationship or you're married or whatever, and you're trying to do a savings, and each time the other mate keeps spending something, and you keep saying, hey, we have this for the savings, but each time you keep pitching into it, and you say, well, why you keep doing that? Well, I saw this, it was on sale. What do you define as a sale? That's something totally different, but sometimes some things need to be said, like, okay, if we said that we have an agreement, we're supposed to do this is what we're supposed to be doing, okay? So let's work together here, okay? I never win in confrontation. Sometimes confrontation is not always about a win-win all the time. Sometimes it's to the point of just getting to an understanding. How do you feel about something? How would I know that if I don't have a conversation with you? If you don't share what you really feel? Hey, tell me about me, something in my behavior that you didn't like. So if I care about you, I love you, I'm gonna do better because I don't want you to feel a certain way. So don't think of that. Again, this is irrational thinking here. There is no use in opposing them. They are much powerful than I am. Now, men, sometimes we think of our wives like that, like she's much more powerful. I'm not saying anything because it's what she says is go. And statistically speaking, in most marriages, most decisions, and 80% of most decisions that are made in the household are made by women. I'm just saying statistics. That's all I'm saying. Now, I didn't say reality. Because some things some things you have to, and sometimes you got to have a rule of thumb. I'll give you a good example. If say for example, your washing machine goes out, and your husband and wife and your washing machine goes out. And the cost of a washing machine is not cheap, okay? All right? So, but if you got kids, you got to have a washing machine. Trust me, I've been there, done that. It's not good. I don't like going to the laundry if I don't have to, okay? It's easy to go home. I can just sit here, whatever case may be, okay? So, you had that happen. And say one of the spouses sees the washing machine and they think it's a good thing and it's $1,200. And you say, wait, this thing, it'll actually put you in the clothes and wash you too, okay? So, but you go and you spend that money. But you didn't consult the other person. And now they see the truck pulling up with that. And they say, well, what's going on? I know we pulling it up, but yeah, I saw this deer. I'm telling you, you just gonna have to forgive me. I just had to get it. I just liked it because, hey, it can do all this. I always learn the rule of thumb is that, and you can, there's no patent on this, you can take this. Anything that's over anything that's over $100, give it 24 hours. Think about it first before you go and spend the money. If you're in a relationship, husband, wife, and you need to, whatever case it may be, give it 24 hours before you go and spend the money. Just to make sure because you might find something, the same thing you might do for $1,200, you could have found it for $600. That's what, yeah. So that's just the thing, this 24 hours. Don't think that through, make sure that's the thing. That's just a simple thing you can do, and that will avoid a whole lot of conflicts later on. Versus you jumping out here and you, oh man, I got to try to figure it. No, sometimes just sit back and be patient. I must please people by telling them what they want to hear. Some people glorify all that, okay? For some people, oh yeah, you the best thing since sliced bread. Okay, keep waiting on that, all right? All right, I never get anywhere by showing my anger openly. Everybody has this thing about anger is a bad thing, you know. The reason why you're angry because it's the thing in the action, the behaviors that's tapping into your feelings. So it's okay. Now, I'm not saying to go ahead to be violent. That's something totally different. That's not uncalled for. But it's okay to verbalize it by being assertive and by addressing the action and or behavior. That's what you need to address. It's bad to get angry. No, it's not. No one wants to know how I feel. Those persons who really care about you, love you, should want to know how you feel. Should ask you how you feel. Yes, sir.
There's one is it's best to anticipate, and what I'm saying, think things through carefully. And first do that, again, self-examination. If I allow things that might be offensive to some, if I allow that to take control of me, then I'm no longer control of myself. And I might make irrational decisions. Therefore, one of the things I believe in focusing on is thinking things through. It doesn't always pan out that way. Depends on the circumstances. But I see wisdom in thinking things through prior, where possible, and to everything necessary to avoid anger. But because once anger creeps in, then it destabilizes soundness in decisions.
Yeah, because the emotion kicks in. And nothing wrong with the emotion, but you just got to be able to have that balance with it, okay? I mean, anger is a regular human emotion. That's a whole nother subject, but it is a human emotion that everybody has to deal with. But I'm telling people, don't shy away from it. You just address, again, go back to the actions. But hey, if you got to take a deep breath, walk away, count to 10, whatever you got to do to address the issue, instead of just coming off the first thing saying the first thing that come to your mind, don't do that, because you might regret that. Yes, ma'am.
I like what David said in Psalm 119. He said, trouble and anguish have taken hold. David said, trouble and anguish have taken hold on me, but thy commandments are my delights.
Exactly.
My commandments
And that's the viewpoint you have to take. That, okay, yeah, it might whatever, but I got to address that behavior. I got to not let it consume me or over consume me where I lose everything. Because sometimes you can wind up losing a good relationship or whatever the case may be. You don't know. No one will understand how I feel. My problems are unique. I need to hide them since no one would understand. Again, those folks who really care about you really want to understand. I am a loser and a failure anyway. Why try to defend my position? Again, these are just irrational thinking points, okay? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, we have to be careful that we don't justify our passive aggressiveness, because passive aggressiveness can feel like the best solution where I'm angry, but it's easier for me to avoid the problem, and then we can justify it to ourselves. And I think a lot of times we get in trouble when we justify anything we do. We need to make sure that we are critical of our own actions and saying, is that really the best thing, the best approach? Because I may avoid getting in a fight with Brother Ray, but it's going to cause a fracture to our friendship that would have been easily solved if we just had it out for a minute. And I feel justified because I'm like, well, I don't want to fight with him and I don't want to deal with it, and it's better this way. And we rationalize irrational thoughts.
Excellent point. Yeah, continue here. I'll never win in this situation. Why try? I enjoy seeing people get blown away by agreeing with them and then doing the opposite of what I agree to. Just some people thrive off that.
As a pastor, please don't do this to me. I would much rather you tell me to my face, I don't like it, I'm not doing it, then I know what's going on. This has happened to me so many times. I'm like, oh, all right, everyone's on board, everyone agrees, and then nothing happens. Like, what happened? I don't understand. Just tell me what you like. If you don't like it, tell me. I don't care. I'd rather know that you're not liking it than for you to say one thing and do the other.
Exactly. I'd rather, oh, this, okay, I got it, there you go. I'd rather back down right away to minimize the damages a fight could bring rather than tell people how I really feel, how I really feel about things. Pastor just said that, you know what? I'm serious. I'm from the thought, there's no standing like an understanding. If you don't like me, trust me, I can live with that. And I know how to keep the distance. And if I had to deal with you just enough, I deal with you just enough that, you know, hey, I don't push no buttons and we don't whatever, and that's fine. But we get along, oh man, that's a beautiful thing, we all can get along. Because, hey, man, we can really move, we can do whatever. And eventually I want to get to the point that, hey, if you can get along with a person and they say, well, you know what? You're not as bad as I thought you was. You're all right. And then I'm like, yay, let's move on. Yeah, we can do some other things now. Because, you know, the preconception, you know what, okay, here's his thing, and I'm gonna move forward here. The next, when we say attitude, what is attitude really is, folks? Anybody can give me a definition of really attitude, really, what the definition of attitude really is? No, it's even deeper than that.
Is your emotions being played out. Basically.
It's even deeper than that.
Okay.
It's your perception. That's what attitude really is. It's your perception, how you really see something, which ties to your emotions and your feelings. So if you really see me as being bad, guess what? Until I change that perception, how you see me, you're gonna see me as being bad. And that's why you will have a bad attitude towards me. One of the aspects. Don't get too far off, but that's one part of the aspect. Yes, ma'am.
I'm unable to repeat what you just said, but I can't change your perception. I cannot change your perception. If you see me as a know-it-all, talk loud person, that is your perception of me. I cannot change
unless I engage you and have a conversation. Then I see beyond that. See, I'm just seeing what you're seeing right there.
That was my question.
Right.
Now, how can?
Right. So that's why I said that's why the attitude is initially your perception. After, if I come and I say, well, Lauren, this is sweet as pie, whatever the case may be. If I sit down with Lauren and I say, Lauren, this is sweet as pie, Lauren, this is sweet as pie. Because guess what? I've sat down, we engaged with her, and I can say that, hey, because she's sweet as pie. You know, because I've had the conversation, I engaged. So how would I know that without having the conversation and engaging in that?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people's perception of you make you behave like.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm getting the mic to you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got it. Sometimes people's perception of you might make you act like that.
Okay, right. I got a good friend for like over 20 years when we met in college. The first thing she said about me was exactly the opposite of what she thought I was. Because when I was many years ago, not complimenting myself, I was confident who I was, where I was going, what I was doing while I was in school. And some people took my confidence as being cocky. And by that, she had a misconception of me. But guess what she did? She said, I want to really know how he really operates. She sat down and had a conversation with me, and we've been friends for over 20 some odd years now. But she took the initiative to have the conversation because she was like, I don't think it's what it is. But that's why I was saying earlier, we have to be real mindful of what, you know, we can't change nobody else's perception of us, but if we confident who we are, and some people don't understand that or trying to figure that out, you gotta engage them so you'll know where they stand.
And I don't want anybody to misunderstand.
No, I don't, yeah.
Your perception of a person, it may not be true, but it's up to you to help to correct your perception by engaging the person, not the other way around. There's nothing that he can do to change if you feel that way. Engage the person.
Then you know, yes,
it's
sir.
Up to the person.
Right, yes, sir.
That way.
But here again, which perception, attitude rather, which attitude are we referring to? When we think in terms one's attitude before I engage in that. I ought to. I believe it would be wise for me to try to view the ideal attitude. And then it gives me a perspective of which side of the attitude. Good attitude determines one's altitude. Which one? And coupled with that, when we think in terms of which fewer people may consider is one's individuality. A person's individuality is untouchable. God doesn't touch that. And a person may be confused with a person's individuality and consider that to be offensive to them when that is not to be touched, because God, again, does not touch our individuality because that's who he made us. And because of that, it's wise to ascertain which attitudes are we talking about. It might be offensive to someone who is blind to that, and so on. There's enough room to play and
right. So this answers your next question, the irrational thought. It's so hard to be honest with people and how I feel when I feel it's counter to what they want me to feel. Okay? Because people, sometimes you got to remember, folks, feelings are fickle. I can make you feel, I can go ahead and make you all feel any way I really want to right about now. You say, how can you do that? What kind of power you have? It's not that. I can use words and say certain things that can make you feel a certain way. I'm going to use this as an example. This is only an example. I can say, Jonathan's good people. And if I say, Jonathan, hey, man, you know what? If you come to church for the next couple of weeks, man, I'll give you $100. Guess what? Jonathan will beat me to church. Okay? And then Jonathan coming like, hey man, remember the $100 you said you was gonna give me? I said, gee, look at the time. Let me go. So you see how? Yes. So I was like, you see what I'm saying? So that's why we got to be careful about that. Words has its meaning. So you gotta just look at that, how sometimes we can actually, and I can actually make you feel that way. And Jonathan be excited, like, man, he told me $100, okay? And that's what happens. So sometimes we do that with people, and then we cause certain things to happen. We wonder why. It's important for people to like and accept me and say anything just so long as they like me. I know it's not what I do or how I act that's important to people. It is what I say that influences them.
What is the distinction between liking a person and loving a person?
Okay, that's totally. Guess what? I can like certain things you do for me. You may say, you know what? When I'm always in the bind, I can't find, whatever the case may be. Hey, brother, how you doing? And then, you start talking. Hey, how's it going, man? I hope your week going good. Hey, I got this situation here. You think whatever the case may be, you think it for me? You can look out for me, fix this for me? Sure. Yeah, you all right. Click. That's liking me for what I can do for you. Now, loving me is like, hey, you know what? You just was on my mind. And I just wanted to call to see how you was doing. I didn't know how your week was going. But the Lord impressed me to say, man, you know what? Call him up. Just to see how he's doing. That's why I know you care about me. Yes, sir.
Yeah, just going into what Matthew 5, right? Where Jesus, he states, if someone hits you, turn the other cheek, right? If the centurion asks you to go an extra mile, you go the extra mile, right? Someone despitefully use you, you pray for them, you bless them, right? I cannot like Jonathan if he get up and slap me right now. I cannot like that. I will not like that, right?
Right, I wouldn't blame you.
But I can love him still, right? And so it's just the emotion aspect of it. You know, I used to wrestle with, you know, is love an emotion or is love an action, right? I still think it's kind of a mixture of both. But more so, love is an action, right? Like is more of an emotion and a feeling. And we are called to love and not necessarily called to like.
Correct. Love is more of a principle of action. Think of it that way.
And in addition to that, if there's an offense or even a person, they are very offensive and offending as well. When I look at it appropriately, I believe that, looking at idealism, divine idealism, of another person, I know that whatever offense that person commits, it is really not of that person's intelligence. They are not aware that they are being offensive. It depends on under which power they nestled or choose to be. The offense should go as at the culmination of the judgment. The offense goes to the accuser, the enemy. So if this person is offensive, I know that this person is not aware under whose influence they are being governed by. And so Satan is the one. But this person, when it comes to intelligence, I am to be merciful, compassionate, and yet be firm in the right manner. So it's not necessarily the person, it is the initial offender. All of the adverse causes, evil causes, is from the enemy. And comparatively few people are aware of their negative action is of themselves. They will take credit for it, but it is general. It is from the.
It goes right to the next one. People will never know I'm angry and disagree with them, so we'll just keep going. I hide my feelings well from others. Feelings don't count. It's better to deny my feelings than upset another person I am in disagreement with. I'd rather lie than get into an argument with someone. And if I lie about how I feel, others would never know the truth. Okay? Now, here's the key. How do I recognize when someone's being passive-aggressive with me? How do I know? Okay, I can tell that people are being passive-aggressive with me when they always agree with my point, even when I am being narrow-minded or blinded to the other's alternatives. That person may have a great idea. My idea is the best. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. And in your mind, like, man, dang, he had a good idea. I ain't never thought about that. Yeah, but I can't let him know that. Hey, I can't, because eagles like eggshells, they're fragile. I can't let Daniel know his idea was great. Man, it was like, can't do that. Never disagree or argue with a point of view. I'm always right. If I'm always right, woo, man, I'm in the wrong business if I'm always right.
Just to mention this, the person many miles away, but it's an issue, and it's pretty close. The person is always right, always knowledgeable, knows everything. I know. Well, I understand that. However, wherever we can use Christ's methods to try and diplomatic ways of trying to reach the person, that I'm not always right. And there's always room for enhancement, improvement, which was just shared in the sermon this morning. No matter to what height we've climbed, there is still much more room that I have not attained to yet.
Exactly.
And by the way, just to add to that, much what Pastor mentioned this morning, what he mentioned this morning about constant growth. And I think more often than not, the average person, all have sinned. are not aware of many things where their progress is impeded. And even in where they want to go, but not knowing how to get there and not realizing the hindrances that exists with them. And so wherever possible and again, diplomatically as possible, to help that person to see that there are certain impediments that is hindering their forwardness, their movement.
Correct.
When we are being repetitive in the hindrances, cause, effect, solutions, and so on.
Yeah, here's the big one right here. Take every opportunity to put me down in a humorous or sarcastic way. Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Do our users mostly likely are passive aggressive?
Yeah, because it's a part of power and control issues.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that most people who are abusers, they try to control every aspect of your being. If I can control the narrative, I control where it goes and where I want you to go.
So can that be passive aggressive and go along with narcissism as well?
Yeah, to a degree, because narcissism is the ultimate of being self-absorbed. And again, if I'm trying to control the narrative of a person in a relationship or whatever, yeah, I can actually use it as a means to be able to control you. Like, say for example, I shut you off from your family, where you can't make any contact with your family. I track you on your phone. And you were supposed to be here 20 minutes ago. Who told you to stop at the grocery store? And that's a whole nother subject within itself, trust me. I mean, that's a whole nother subject. Good question though. Never confront me with their negative feelings. Or when you ask them, oh, I'm feeling fine. You sure everything all right? Like this pastor just said earlier. If something ain't right, tell me it's not right. Or no, pastor, did you think about this? Oh, pastor was like, hey, I never thought about this, but no, it's fine. Whether you agree, pastor, you're it.
It just drives me crazy. It's just like, especially I get sometimes where I do something and no one said anything before I did it, and no one said anything while I was doing it. But then afterward, they're like, oh, if it would have been better if you did. Why didn't you tell me?
The whole story.
So okay, like it's
They don't
great
want to
to
tell you
say
no.
a person with perfect hindsight vision. It's like I know it didn't work out, but I would have liked if you saw it not working out from the beginning. You should have told me something from the beginning.
But see, they don't want to tell you no.
It's almost like they like to just watch it unravel and be like, oh, I knew it wasn't going to work. Like, if you knew it wasn't going to work, why didn't you say anything?
Waste of time and energy and all that.
I'm not mean. It's not like you say something to me, I'm going to be mad at you. But a lot of times there's a pride in the sense of, if you would have done it my way, it would have worked. And I've seen it where churches, and this is an aside, sorry to take time.
That's all right, no, okay.
I've seen a person who was upset about something. They were planning a building. They were going to do some construction. The person saw a flaw in the plan, but they had been passed over to be the head of the ministry. Mm-hmm. So they were constructing something. They saw a flaw in the plan, held their mouth. The church does it, and then later on, there's an issue that comes up. It costs the church $50,000, and the person's saying, if you would have asked me to do it, if you would have asked me to be in charge of it, I would have done it well. I saw it happening from the beginning. To me, that means that person is willfully harming the church.
We are told to love our neighbors as ourselves, and also to do unto others as you would have others do unto you. I don't think they might be intentionally doing that. I think they might be esteeming that person better than themselves. Like, we're not supposed to put others, ahead of us. We're supposed to love them just like we love ourselves. God, we're supposed to love with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength. But we can't make we can't make another person our God. And sometimes we esteem other people better than us. And so I'm not going to tell him because he's going to think he, I won't gain his friendship. He's supposed to be better than me, higher than me. So sometimes people think like that.
Yeah, this sense of authority, like we don't want to tell the pastor no.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. So a few years ago, I was having a conversation with people, and they told me, they was like, why don't you think it's better to let someone do something? And even though you think that is wrong, or you feel that is wrong, why don't you think that it's better to just let them do it because they want to do it? And if it's wrong, then they'll find out on themselves. And that concept was like mind-boggling to me, because I'm like, if I know something is wrong, why would I let you do something that's wrong? But some people actually feel that way, that I'm not going to say anything. I don't want you to tell me. Just let me do it. And if you do something that I think is wrong, I'm going to let you do it. Some people actually think like that, and I just don't understand why.
Well, I mean, when I was in therapy, that was the hardest thing when I was a therapist, because when you try to, the concept is that you want a person to figure it out for themselves, because you don't want them to. You don't want to tell them, because the first time you tell them and it goes wrong, the first thing they're gonna say is that, "See, I did what you said, and see, it went wrong." As a therapist, that's why it's called an art. You have to get them to realize how they need to figure out something is wrong, and then let them do that. So that's the hardest thing. You may say, they may ask you, and you may say, if you asking me, my viewpoint is that you may want to consider this and may want to look at it from a different angle. But if you choose to do something, I can't stop you. But if you're asking me, I'm going to give you my viewpoint on it. Go ahead.
So, and to speak to my sister's point and to Daniel's point, what I think there's levels. So there's some people who may be on the gentle side of, I didn't want to think that I know better than you do. Like, what makes you think what makes me think my idea is gonna fix the problem? Maybe I'm wrong and maybe you're right. On the other extreme, the person who did the thing that I mentioned specifically, he intended to hurt the church because they had hurt his pride. But where is the middle ground that I'd like to encourage people to find? And that's what you had mentioned. So you might be looking at something that the church is doing and saying, well, there's an obvious problem with that approach. There's something that I see. And the worst case scenario, you go to the person and say, hey, have you considered this? You know, I see that you're planning something, and I'm excited. I'm happy that you're doing it. I don't want you to feel like you can't do it, or that, oh, if I don't do it the way that this person is suggesting, then they're not going to support me. But also, have you considered, let me share my perspective. But a lot of people, and this isn't to call them, only God knows the heart, but to me, there seems to be a poison in the heart where the person says, I see that it's going to fail. I withhold my contribution. I withhold saying something because it's almost like a sense of pride to say, oh, look, I saw it failing and I didn't, and if they would have talked to me, if they would have asked, I could have fixed it for them. But what I would say in the name of Jesus, I'm not going to judge anyone for their motives, but if you see something, the best thing I would love to encourage is just to say, hey, have you considered, because a lot of times things are made better by the contributions of the people working together, instead of it being a criticism like, oh, that's not going to work. But who knows how, when we contribute to the ideas, say, oh, maybe it would be better if we did it a little differently. Taking in the perspective of each other, we may come up with the best. And then the best part about that is that it ends up being a collaborative thing instead of it being one person. It can be very frustrating for one person to have an idea, go forward with the idea, not have support from anyone else, and then the idea fails. It's a lot easier if we have a person who says, I think this is a good idea. We collaborate, we share the work together, and then even if it doesn't work out, it's a collaborative experience, and we end up, okay, maybe we can do it better, or do things a little differently, but it's our thing, not you did it, you failed, and now you have the consequences.
Excellent. And I feel this personally, I'd rather be a help than a hindrance. If I feel that I'm being a hindrance, I take myself out of the situation. If I can't feel that I'll be a help, and that's should be everyone's personal philosophy to look at things. Yes, sir.
Well, this is exactly what Pastor's sharing, and I mentioned the text this morning.
Bring it closer to you.
Hebrews 10:25. When God says, forsake whatever we're doing on behalf of Christ, we are to work that which is to be done corporately or as a unit together, because God never gives anyone all of the answers to everything, no matter who we are. A good example of that is with Moses, the greatest leader of all time. But God didn't tell him directly how to organize the church. And this is for leaders, everyone, but for leaders. The Lord didn't tell him. He allowed Moses to use his wisdom, which was wise, but there's a learning process. Moses began to shoulder the responsibility. And notice even this, why the Lord also says, I have other sheep that are not yet of this fold. Because the Lord he used someone who was not an Israelite to teach Moses how to rebuke that, not Moses,
right,
but he rebuked the act. And as a result, he taught Moses, and Moses was humble. The Lord had prepared him during those 40 years of wilderness experience. And when he learned that Moses had was Christ-centered, and when this non-Israelite taught him how to enter the church, lead the church, immediately he responded, and there was a blessing. Exactly. So that's why Christ says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves. Faithfulness, meeting with him according to his designations, and come with the right spirit, and that's how the church moved forward in the process. Correct. We individually.
Yep, let's go ahead and keep moving here. Avoid discussions about unpleasant topics. Are always cheerful and upbeat to my face, but yet I hear from others how negative they are about me behind my back. Okay.
So,
right.
Sorry, not to interrupt,
go ahead.
I want to address this for us as a church. Realize that speaking about someone behind their back is the work of Satan in the church and has led to a lot of issues within our church. I'm not talking in general, I'm saying the Columbia Midtown Church. Be careful when you speak about people, because even if you don't say it to their face, that negativity destroys our unity in relationships. So it's, even if you're saying, well, I would say this to their face, then say it to their face and don't say it behind their back.
Okay, now, so okay. We need to be prepared for that, because sometimes some people ain't prepared for that, or they don't expect that to come from you or you or you or you or you. It may come easier from you, but it may not come as easy to come from me, because again, I may not have the choice words to say certain things. I may just come out. Some people just have no filters. How many of you have relatives that have no filters? I have my relative, my aunt. She would literally, when I say no filters, she had no filters. If you came in with an outfit, she would literally say, where the blittity, blittity, blit, you where to get that from? And why did you buy that blittity? That look like blittity, 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 blit. Okay? There are some people who are like that. And I hate to say this, there's some people among us that sometimes are like that as well. They'll just say it with no filter. So if you can't, whatever, don't say it yet till you can figure out how to say it.
We have to be careful, because what you said about perspectives, we are unintentionally or intentionally, I would say be careful, because it may feel unintentional, but it is malicious. We are destroying people's perspectives of one another. And even if I just say, oh, well, I'm saying this between me and Clarence, I'm hurting that person in Clarence's perspective. And we have to be very careful, because we say, well, I don't want to be mean, you're being worse than mean, you're being destructive. And if you feel like it would be inappropriate to say this to the person themselves, it's probably not appropriate to say it to someone else, even if they're your friend and we've known each other for a long time. I mean, not to be talking about the dirty laundry of the church. We know that no church is perfect, but I can see where those conversations, even though I've never heard the conversation, I can see how it's impacted the unity and the love within our church. Excellent. Even though it's not like the person said, oh, this person over here said this about this other person, but I already know that it happened because of the impact it had.
Well, that was a mouthful right there. All right, yes, be constantly never disagreeing with anything I say. You always you're right, Pastor, you're right, Daniel, you're right. Daniel, you got the experience, you're right. Okay? Right. I'm just going to feed into the ego, right? Exactly. Consistently do the opposite of what I thought they agreed to do. Withdraw or pull away from me whenever I confront them with my anger or negative feelings about them. Deny that they have any problems with our relationship. Talk about others in a negative or disparaging way, yet are nice and friendly to their faces. Ooh, boy, we can really do that, can't we? Trust me, I'll be like, ooh, As soon as they leave, man, I can't. Ooh, get on my nerves, ooh. But hey, brother, how you doing? Good to see you. Boy, I'm telling you, to me, honestly, that's scary. Really it is. Because if you can sit there and do that, what else can't you do? Okay? How can I recognize when someone's being passive aggressive? Continue. That's some things I want you to think about. Demonstrate behavior inconsistent with their words. Make me feel foolish for expecting one thing from them when they deliver the opposite. Make me believe I can count on them to do something for me, but they never follow through. Talk with fantasy and magical thinking about how they're going to change, yet that never occurs. We already talked about that. I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna do better, I'm gonna do better. Show a consistent pattern of exerting no effort towards improving our relationship. Talk or act irrationally in dealing with a problem as if it were very easy to overcome and correct. Some things take a while, ladies and gentlemen. Minimize the extent of the problems facing us in our relationship. Tend to patronize me and try to make me believe that I am just imagining problems between us. Like make you think something wrong with you, and it's really not you; it's the other person. Okay, but again, that's scary. You may be like, well, wait a minute, I'm doing everything right, and I'm whatever, and they make you think. See, no, you don't want to do that. See, if you do like I told you to, let me stop. Anyway, how can I confront a passive aggressive person? Sometimes we wish we could do that. Some people wish they could do that. If others are being passive aggressive with me, I can do this. Point out the behavior that indicates passive aggressiveness on their part. Hey, I hear what you're saying, but I've just noticed the pattern that, you've always keep saying that you would always do something, but you never follow through with it. I'm seeing when we asked you to do this, we asked you to do this in this setting and you never showed up. Or you said this and you said, you couldn't do this because you had a family emergency or whatever, but every other day is a family emergency. Point out the inconsistencies between their words and actions. What they're saying and what they're behaving totally different. Pay attention to their actions rather than their words. Then give them feedback as to what their actions tell me about their feelings. In other words, I notice that you were avoiding. Is it something that you're not comfortable with? If you're not comfortable with the setting or whatever, or person's in the setting, tell us what you're not comfortable with. Then we can address what we're not comfortable with to make you feel more comfortable. Ask for their true feelings, reassuring them that there is no right or wrong feelings, that it's okay to share negative feelings. People just don't want to talk. Some people just don't want to talk about their feelings. No, because I don't want to, trust me, I've heard this people, I don't want to put this out in the atmosphere. I don't want this, no, I don't want that energy. You know, I don't want to, because it make it feel a certain way. Sometimes we need to have conversations with each other. That's what I'm getting at. We need to converse. If it's something you don't feel, tell me. Something I do wrong, please tell me. How would I know to get anything better? How do I know to improve if you don't tell me? If I make you feel a certain way, if I said something, tell me. I'm the first person, I'm gonna try to fix it. Ask them what has them so intimidated that they fear sharing their feelings with me. Because sometimes you may, because as soon as I say something, you get too loud. And you find yourself getting loud, take a deep breath from the diaphragm, blow it out, then say what you gotta say. If you know that you're about to get loud, walk away. Count to 10. Say a prayer. Say, Lord, I don't want to say the wrong thing to this person. Let me just make sure I say right. Stop. Then address the behavior. Reassure them that we can reach a win-win solution in our communication if we're willing to compromise. Diffuse the competition in our relationship. It doesn't matter what we're discussing as long as we respect how each other feels about what we're discussing. We may have to respect whether we agree to disagree, but we're going to respect that. Remain open to any negative feelings that they have and let them know this. Begin to trust begin to trust what they do rather than what they say, and let them know that I'm doing this. I'm gonna tell you about yourself in a nice way, but it's respectful so you can address the behavior and interactions. Make myself more accessible to them. Let them know, hey, I'm here, I'm support, I'm here, you can tell me. Help them lessen their fear of rejection from me by reassuring them that I really do care. Now, well, yeah, you might not, whatever case may be, but I'm having this conversation with you because I care about you. And I want to know if we can work this out, let's work it out. Okay? Let them know, hey, and if it takes time, it takes time. But I'm willing to try to at least show the effort. Extend the olive branch, as they say. Okay? If I find myself being passive aggressive, how can I correct this? To avoid being passive aggressive with others, this is the things you can do. Try to be assertive, open, and honest with my negative feelings and or anger. Warn people to read my behavior rather than my words if they want to know my feelings. Now, if I don't say nothing to you, you ask me a question, that means I'm PO, don't ask me no more questions. Let me get myself situated, and then I come back. At least the person asked you the question, you should be able to come back to the person, hey, I know you asked me this question, whatever. I didn't want to answer the question right now because I wasn't ready for it because it was going to make me feel a certain way. And now I'm ready to answer that question, okay? Confront myself with my inconsistent behavior and challenge myself to explain it. Why I keep thinking this way? Why I keep doing the same behaviors that expect to get different results? Question yourself why you're doing this. And that you expect this is supposed to happen. Okay, I'm supposed to dig a hole, but to put a plant in it, but I'm waiting for the plant to grow. It's gonna grow, you don't dig the hole. Okay? Take the risk to confront my anger assertively and on the spot so I can bring my behavior in line with my feelings. Make it match. Level it out. Work at making my behavior consistent with my feelings. Change the way I interact with people and make my relationship more honest. If y'all know I'm not ready to converse with you yet, until I'm willing to confront you, then I confront you. But if I'm not whatever, it's best for me not to engage you right now because I got to get myself together so I can have the conversation. And then once I'm whatever and I care, I'm going to have the conversation. Admit that I've been a liar. Work at being more honest with people, even if it results in a conflict. In other words, you've been lying to me all this time? Come on, man, I thought we... Okay, you know what? I gotta appreciate that. At least you said to me, you stopped lying to me. You know what? I gotta take that face value. Because at least you realized you was lying to me, and I had to respect the fact you came to me and told me you was lying to me. Yeah, I might feel a certain way behind that, but you know what? If I go back and really think about that, you was being honest, and I gotta respect that. Yeah, I might feel a certain way, but for you to come back and tell me that, I gotta respect it. Because you told me. Because you didn't have to tell. You could have kept lying to me and said, man, you all right, man? And lying to you, feeling like, man, okay. You don't have to do that. Identify the irrational thinking that prevents me from confronting people when I'm angry. Learn how to become assertive with my negative feelings. Accept that it's okay to have conflict or disagreement. I know that, honestly, this is the hardest struggle I see that people, I don't know why people don't want to address issues or conflicts. They say, oh no, everything's supposed to be peaches and cream and la 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 and flowers. And man, sometimes we might have to have a knockout, drag out. We may have to have a serious discussion about some stuff because I might really feel a certain way about that. Yes, sir.
The problem, I think, is that, as we've said, fighting is bad, negativity is bad, confrontation is bad. So we don't want to fight with other people. We don't want to negative. We don't want to do these things. And so we're told it's bad to the point we don't realize just because you swallowed your anger doesn't mean it's gone away. And just because you're not dealing with something doesn't mean it's disappeared. You can't throw a sheet over a tiger and expect everything to be okay. You gotta deal with it. But the problem, I think, is a little bit, I feel bad that I'm angry. I don't want to be mad at you, but I am. So it's not like denial doesn't help anybody.
And it might be a legitimate reason why you might be angry with me. Or
maybe not.
Yeah, or it might be that I may have a bad misperception about it, and then I didn't talk to you. Then once you know what, Pastor, you know what, I saw that totally wrong. Now I see what you're saying. Since you brought it to me that way, I'm glad you clarified that for me. Okay, we all right, because you made me feel better because now I understand where you was coming from. Because again, you might have came at because I don't want, because no, he's a pastor. I don't want to challenge him. He would. Some things, not saying everything got to be challenged, but some things, if I'm like this, if I don't know, I'm gonna ask. Ask the question because sometimes I don't know all the answers. I might have to say, well, Pastor, you might have a better experience with it. Now, make sure I'm understanding this correctly because maybe I might be just misunderstanding this piece differently or seeing it differently. Make sure, help me to understand what I put. He would say, hey, brother, you look. Oh, now I understand that now. Because again, it's engaging, it's having a conversation. I won't know that until I talk to you, until I get up off of it and ask the question. I don't know. If I don't know, it's okay if you don't know. Ask. Get clarity. Then I can know, okay. And then sometimes there may be some things that we may have just a matter of this perspective on. Like, hey, Pastor do his thing, I do mine. and that's but we okay. And we keep moving. Learn to compromise and come to a win-win situation. Yes, so you had a comment?
It helps me to understand more and more daily when the issue that you're speaking, why it's on.
No, bring it to you. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Why these things occur. I've come to realize more and more why. And I'm passionate about mentally processing how to address where possible, where needed. If the next person cannot see it, And as Christ laid out the whole foundation, if there is not the willingness, God is obstructed. He cannot violate our choices and should reveal it to us. And he says that in John 17, that if we are willing, and the couple right with the text was, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If we open the door and invite him in, he will begin to draw the curtain and reveal to us in proportion to our ability and all of that. And so if a person doesn't realize consequences have not come to that point, they cannot see it. Therefore, they are set or fixated in their views. And there's a person, a beautiful, beautiful family, loving Christian family in their own world, but here's a person who's committing suicide every day. There's health issue. You can hear it from a distance. That cancer is in the mix, constantly coughing. It sounds like it took me some time to determine that it wasn't a dog heaving. And families are serious about it, and yet the person's a beautiful, loving person, but they just don't see it. And they're going down, 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 physically, health, every way, but they just don't see it. So here's a helpless situation for us to face. God has to do it with the person's permission. And so wouldn't charge the person in their ignorance if they're not willing. So I pity the situation. And if the door is open where it can help the person, then I can do that. But we have our limitations.
Exactly. Wrapping up here, why should I eliminate acting in a passive-aggressive way? By eliminating passive-aggressiveness, when I am angry, I could have a deeper and more honest and long-lasting relationship. Feel less stress, anxiety, and depression in my dealings with others. Learn to be clear and consistent about my feelings. Reassure others that they will no longer have to guess how I really feel. Stop resorting to lies about my feelings. Develop self-respect, self-confidence, self-esteem, and self-worth. Have more energy because I would no longer be defending myself from powerful, intimidating people. Have clarity of focus and purpose. Work on the things I want rather than what others want for me. Have fewer people venting their rage on me. Okay. Experience a sense of harmony in my life. Now, let's get to the crux of how we really can do this in a practical sense, okay? First step, you gotta recognize that the behavior occurs. To do this, I want you to answer these questions. What is my usual response when I disagree with someone who intimidates me? How do I feel when I am angry or upset or someone who intimidates me? How often do I agree with these people rather than confront them just to avoid conflict? What beliefs do I derive by avoiding confrontation? What are my feelings after I have backed down from someone who has intimidated me? If I feel like, ooh, I get depressed, I get whatever, that's something you need to look at. Oh, I was like, I just want to slap the next person that come to me. Okay, those kind of things. From whom I have backed down, how successful was this? How often do I go ahead with what I've had planned, ignoring what these people wanted me to do? What usually results from my failure to follow through with my part of the plan? What do I do now after I back down from a disagreement? Am I passive aggressive? How can I tell? What are the results? How often does this happen? Does this happen to me every day, 3 times a week, every 5 minutes? Look at the patterns. All of us have patterns. Under what circumstances do I resort to passive aggressiveness? Like sometimes when people step on your toes and you don't want to deal with certain things, it makes that rise up. What is involved with these situations? Why do I resort to passive aggressiveness? What are the negative results of my passive aggressiveness? Step 2, If I find that I'm resorting to passive aggressiveness, then I need help to recognize the negative impact it has on my life. To do this, record the following aspects in a notebook. Pay attention to this. Write a story about 5 separate instances during which I've acted passive aggressive. In each story, detail when it happened, with whom it happened, what I was angry about or over what we disagreed, why I was intimidated, why did I later show I was being passive aggressive, the reasons I act the way I did, how others reacted to my passive aggressive behaviors, how others confronted me on how I was acting, what did they told me about my behavior and how they felt about it, the final outcome of the situation. Step 3. Now, you're ready to really look at your behaviors, and these are things I want you to do in this following exercise. I want you to write a sequel of the stories that you come up that you did in step 2. And then each sequel, I want you to look at what can I do differently when I recognize that I was angry and had a negative feeling. How honestly confronted my feelings as being different from my behavior. How I made sure that my actions were consistent with the expressed feelings. How I gave others permission to call on me if I deviated from the expressed feeling. In other words, somebody called you out and you said you was going to do better, and then that person called you out and they said, hey, you said you was going to do this, but you did the opposite of that. Take that humble pill with that and say, you know what? I needed to hear that. Okay? How's handle my being assertive with anger and or negative feelings, how we resolved the conflict or disagreement that resulted, the impact this confrontation had on our relationship, how the stress and anxiety of intimidation and power games was eliminated from our relationship, how I felt about feelings to handle my anger and or disagreements in a healthy way, the benefits of being direct and assertive in confronting my anger and or negative feelings with others. All right, step 4. Once you have been able to rewrite all the passive aggressive and the behavioral script, because that's what I'm teaching you to do in this situation, how to write a better script for yourself when you find yourself in those situations. You can write it down, but you can have a mental script as well, how you can put it together and apply it. Whenever I'm angry or in a disagreement with someone, I would strive to do this. Tell the person immediately how I feel, even if I'm angry or in a disagreement. Okay? A lot of other persons express their feelings openly as well. See, sometimes we get expressive feelings, you want to get one-sided. See, Red, you got on my last note. You know, you made me say, I don't like you, how you did. I mean, come out with a litany of stuff. But don't never let the other person say how they feel about you. Okay? So you got to be both sides, got to be open. Ask the others to allow for a compromise or a win-win solution. Ventilate feelings, and then jointly brainstorm solutions. How are we going to get together? How are we going to make this better? How many of you going to get along? Is it that we just got to just turn our backs from each other like, this ain't working? Or we got to say, hey man, I'm going to sit down next to you and we're going to sit down and like this. I have situations, folks, that I tell people in certain situations, you don't get up to the table, there's an understanding. I don't care how long it takes. You don't get up to the table until there's an understanding. And so if it takes you 2 hours, 2 minutes, 22 hours, you don't get up until you get an understanding. You arrive at that win-win. Then you act on this. Make sure my actions are consistent with the agreement. Make sure my behavior is consistent with my feelings. Give the other person permission to point out when my behavior deviates from my agreement. In other words, you get called out, and in the same turn, I call you out. Okay? Monitor my emotions and renegotiate our solution if they aren't consistent with our compromise. Let the other know if I get upset over the compromise, no masking of my feelings. In other words, I'm like, oh no, it's fine, you were okay, yeah, I know you took all the money, but it was all right. No, it ain't all right, you took all the money, that's a problem, okay, that's an issue. I was saving up for this, okay? Confront intimidation openly and honestly. Ensure that our relationship is based upon honesty. Accept the uniqueness and individuality of others. that Brother Clarence talked about earlier, allowing each of us to be ourselves. If you are who you are, if you like it, I love it, okay? Because that's who you are. Because then we say earlier, God is love. And hey, if you know sometimes you get compassionate, as we talked about earlier today, get compassionate, or you got passion about something, if that's your thing, that is your thing. And I'm not messing with your thing. If that makes you passionate, I'm like, go for it. Because that's what you like. So if I care about you and love you, I'm gonna ensue you like, hey, your passion within reason. Now, I'm not saying you go out here and just do something willy-nilly now, but I'm saying within reason, all right? So once you get past step 4, step 5, if I find I'm still resorting to passive aggressiveness, then you need to go back to step 1 and repeat while the pattern is going down, okay? Now, I know there's a lot to take, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me, because ordinarily, I usually don't do seminars this long, usually an hour and change at best. But I appreciate you guys hanging out with me, because I know this was a touchy subject, and some things that we really need to be able to be said. And if some things you didn't get the chance to cover, you always can go back at our Facebook page or YouTube. And also, if you want to be able to get a copy, because there's no pattern on none of the things that I present here, you just email me and I'll be more than glad to send you the PowerPoint if you want to be able to go back and review it for yourself. Yes, sir.
I wanted to highlight what you said earlier. The opposite of passive aggressive is not aggressive. It's not that you come up to the person and say, I got all these issues with you and let me fight it out with you. It is acknowledging and confronting, and it's not necessarily an aggressive behavior. Is, hey, what's going on? Hey, what are we doing? And identifying negative and resolving it. Because a lot of times people say, well, I don't want to be aggressive, so I'm passive aggressive, or I don't want to be passive aggressive, so I'm aggressive. But they're not opposite to each other. What we need to be doing is, as these situations come up, let's resolve this through conversation, and then God
you know
will
what
provide.
the medium really is? The medium really is being assertive. That's
Amen.
the medium. The medium is that, you know what? I allow you to say your thing. I don't interrupt. Because sometimes, because as soon as you say something about, oh no, that's not true, that's not me, you know, shh. Let that person finish completely. Ask them if they are finished. Then you say your piece. After that piece, then you work out what piece that you didn't like, and you piece by piece as like a puzzle. And then eventually you put that together. But being assertive is that you're open and honest, and you're not attacking a person's character. You're attacking their behavior. That is the key. Because trust me, there are things in people's behaviors that some people just don't like. Okay, but I address the behavior. Because if I attack the behavior, that's a ground base, that's a foundation for me to start on. Because now I can say, hey, you know, Pastor, man, you know, sometimes, hey, I just noticed that sometimes you whatever, this inconsistent what you say whatever, then I can say, then you can say, well, be honest with you, hey, I really don't like that, because of the fact that you kind of put me in a situation, my time is whatever the case may be, and then I can say, like you said earlier, well, why you didn't say that? Because maybe I might could do a little bit more of this. If you could do a little of this, then we can gel this thing together, and you be like, oh yeah, I appreciate that, brother, hey, good, if you can, whatever case may be, and now I'll make sure I do this part, and then you do a part, and that part, man, then it's a beautiful thing. Because that's what, everybody's on the same sheet of music. Then once everybody gets on the same piece of music, and the other people who jump on board, they start saying, okay, what can I do? And okay, but you can help me do this and this, and then okay, then you got somebody else say, hey, you can jump on and do this part and this part, and then, you know, hey, you don't, man, trust me, it'll be in sync so beautifully. And when them people come, and they be like, ooh, I like this because everybody sold this. Whatever, no matter whatever happened that week, okay, but when you got here, whatever the case may be, you put all that at the door, and you came whatever the case may be, you took it up with God during the week, and whatever the case may be, so when you got whatever you need to be, you were a better person when you left here when you came. Does that make sense? Okay. Again, I really thank you guys for hanging out because I know we went a while here. And I knew this was going to be a touchy subject and topic, but we need to understand these things because we have to be ready. Because if we see how things, this is what, the 25th of January, you see how the world is already in turmoil already? And we haven't even made 30 days in this new year, and we see things going on. We gotta tighten up the screws here a little bit, folks. We got work to do. We do. We have work to do. But let's work on ourselves. And then, because we work on ourselves, trust me, when everybody, whatever the case may be, who can, whatever, we can deal with that because guess what? We already overcomers. We already know. Look here, you can sit here and say, you know what? Hey, I've been where you've been at. Let's sit down and have a conversation. I can hear you more. Because I'm not going to, because A, I have no judgment, no whatever, but I can sit down and, you know what? Hear me out. Trust me, I'm the best listener ever. I'm the best listener because I'll let you all day because I want you to get all that out. Because sometimes you don't realize, folks, when you get all that stuff out, do you know you process things better? Yeah. Just get all that out. And then you can move on and pick up bigger and better things. Okay? All right, Pastor, lead us out in prayer, please, sir.
Thank you all very much. And I just want to say, too, Brother Honore is always open to suggestions. If there's any topic that you feel we need to talk about, we're going to be having these discussions the next few months. So the next discussion we're going to have will be February 22nd, I believe. And he'll be presenting in that time. And we're so glad that he's sharing this information with us. But as we close, let's have a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we know that you have called us to be peacemakers. We have called us to look and love one another and serve one another. Allow us to avoid the pitfalls of our fragile egos where we try to avoid things. We're upset, but we don't want to deal with either our own hypocrisy or the difficult thing that we must confront. Lord, may we be like Christ, and may we be loving and listening, and ultimately may we bring peace to our households and to the world around us. Now bless us as we all go home and continue to be with us and guide us, I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you
God
again,
bless,
ladies and
and
gentlemen,
hope to
hanging
see
out
you
with
all
us.